I wake up to the same sound every morning, my phone buzzing with notifications, reminders of bills due, credit card balances creeping higher, and a message from my bank app telling me how little I have left in my checking account. I don't need to check it, really. I already know. I've memorized every digit. But I check anyway. It's like peering into a hole you're falling into, hoping it'll somehow look different today. It's not that I'm lazy. Or that I don't work hard enough. I work 2 jobs, one in a coffee shop, the other in retail, just to make sure I can pay rent and eat. Rent's been going up steadily, though, and I've had to start buying cheaper food, things that last longer but don't fill me up in quite the same way. Frozen meals, pasta, rice. I try to make them stretch as far as possible. Sometimes I skip meals. Or eat smaller portions. I tell myself I'm saving money, but it doesn't feel like saving. It feels like surviving. I've been living like this for almost 2 years now. I keep telling myself that it won't always be like this, that I'll find a way out. But every time I see something I want, whether it's new shoes or a night out with friends, there's this sinking feeling in my stomach. It's like I'm not allowed to dream anymore. I don't have the luxury of desires anymore. The thought of buying something that isn't essential feels like a betrayal to my future self. The hardest part? The constant anxiety. It's in my chest, a low hum I can't shake. It's waking up at 3 a.m., wide-eyed and staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'm going to make it through the next month. Wondering if I'll ever catch up, or if I'll just keep running in place until I collapse. I've had to put so many dreams on hold. I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to move to a city where the opportunities were better, where I could be around people who didn't make me feel like I'm always falling behind. But that would mean taking on more debt, more loans, and it feels like there's no real payoff to any of it anymore. I don't know how to make my way through a world that constantly raises the stakes and makes it feel like the only way to survive is to keep your head down and grind. It's not that I don't care about my future. I do. I care so much, in fact, that it hurts to think about how little I'm doing to actually build it. I want to believe that things will get better, but I keep hearing that the economy is getting worse, that prices are climbing higher, that wages aren't keeping up. Everyone tells me to hang in there or just work a little harder, but what does that even mean when the system is set up so that you're always one step behind, always just getting by? I remember, not too long ago, my dad said something to me, something that stuck. He said, money's always going to be a stress, but it doesn't have to steal your peace. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. How could something that literally controls every aspect of your life not steal your peace? But now, when I'm caught in the cycle of bills and work and trying to just get through the day, I get what he was saying. He was telling me that there's more to life than money. But damn, it's hard to believe when everything around you seems to depend on it. I try to cope in small ways. I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can, even when it doesn't feel like enough. I keep a small notebook where I jot down moments of joy, like when I finally get to take a breath after a long shift, or when a friend invites me out for coffee and insists on paying. It's not much, but it helps me remember that I'm not just defined by the number in my bank account. I'm more than my circumstances. Or at least, I try to believe I am. But then, there are days when it all feels too much. I'll look at my paycheck, and it's as if I'm staring at a cruel joke. The amount doesn't even cover my rent fully, let alone the utilities, the food, the insurance, or the debt I'm slowly drowning in. I feel suffocated. I get angry at myself, at the system, at the world. What's the point of trying so hard if there's no end in sight? I've thought about quitting. Sometimes it's the only escape I can imagine. The thought of dropping everything and just walking away from the weight of all this pressure is so tempting. But then, what would I do? Where would I go? And how would I survive without the little I'm scraping together now? I can't afford to stop. The irony of it all is that the harder I work, the less I have, and yet I can't stop working because if I do, everything collapses. It's like I'm running a race I can never win. I try to keep hope alive, but sometimes hope feels like a luxury I can't afford. It's hard to imagine a future when every day is a fight to keep my head above water. I wonder if anyone else feels like this, if everyone else is just as tired, just as overwhelmed, but pretending they have it together. The thing is, I used to have dreams. I used to want things, big things. I wanted to travel, see the world, learn new skills, meet new people. I wanted to feel free. But now, every dream feels too big. I've had to shrink them down to something more manageable, like pay the rent or don't get sick. I've learned to be grateful for the small wins, like when I manage to stretch a paycheck for an extra week or when I get a day off to rest. But inside, a part of me mourns the loss of the future I once imagined. It's not that I've given up. Not yet. But some days it's hard to believe that anything's going to change. Some days, it feels like I'm stuck in a loop, constantly trying to outrun the inevitable. And some days, I just want to scream because it feels like I'm doing everything right, working harder than I ever have, and still falling behind. I don't know how much longer I can do this, how much longer I can pretend like I've got it under control when everything feels like it's slipping away. But I have to keep going, right? Because what's the alternative? If I stop, if I give up on hope, what's left? So I keep going. I wake up, face the day, work the shifts, check my bank balance, pay what I can, and try not to think too much about the future. Because if I think too much about it, I might crumble. And I can't afford to crumble. At least, not yet. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing, the screen glowing in the dark room as I swipe it open. A notification from the bank app. It's the kind of message I've come to dread, the reminder that there's not much left in my account. I don't even know why I check it anymore. It's like confirming that the problem is still there, that it didn't magically fix itself overnight. But somehow, I do. Every morning. I drag myself out of bed, the weight of another day of worrying about money settling in my chest like a stone. I'm 25, and I feel like I've been adulting for ages, but all I really know how to do is juggle bills, push off payments, and avoid thinking too much about the future. Every dollar I make goes towards something, usually the essentials. Rent, groceries, utilities. The bare minimum to stay afloat. But lately, the minimum feels like it's getting further out of reach. I pull on my uniform and grab my keys, the usual routine that I've grown so accustomed to. The walk to work is still a little quiet in the morning, just me and the car speeding by. I've been doing this job for a while now, ever since I graduated with a degree I thought would lead to something better. I used to have dreams, maybe even delusions, about climbing a ladder, working my way up, finding a job that would pay me enough to live without the constant anxiety. Instead, I'm still working the same retail job I took when I needed something fast. It pays the bills, sure, but it's not what I imagined I'd be doing at 25. My boss is nice, but I can see the pressure in his eyes too. I know I'm not the only one struggling. Everyone's got their own version of this. We all talk about the same things, the price of groceries, the rent hikes, the cost of just existing. I think we all secretly wonder when we're going to get a break, if any of us ever will. By mid-morning, the anxiety begins to creep up on me again. I'm scanning through my phone between customers, checking the job listings, checking if anything new has popped up, anything that could pay a little better. But it's all the same. Listings for jobs that require more experience than I have or offer less pay than I could survive on. It's a game of pretending I'm getting ahead when really, I'm just treading water. The conversations I have with my friends feel a little hollow these days, like we're all in the same boat, but none of us know how to get out of it. We talk about things we want to do, the trips we want to take, the lives we want to live, but the reality is different. We joke about how broke we are, but it's not really a joke. It's the truth, and it's not funny anymore. We're all struggling in our own ways, doing our best to survive, but survival doesn't feel like enough anymore. I want to thrive. I want more than this. When I get home after work, it's a different kind of quiet. The bills are stacked on the counter, a constant reminder of what I owe and what I don't have. The rent is due next week, and I don't know how I'm going to make it this time. I've been late before, but I can't keep pushing it back. The landlord's patience isn't infinite. I wonder what would happen if I just packed up and left. I'd be a ghost, an unpaid bill, another statistic in a system that doesn't care about me. But that's not an option, is it? I'd just be running from something that will follow me no matter where I go. I sit at my kitchen table, my mind running a loop of numbers, trying to figure out how to stretch my paycheck for the next 2 weeks. I could cut out a few things, maybe eat less, skip the coffee shop, stay home on the weekends. But there's only so much room to cut when every penny is already accounted for. I'll have to ask my parents for help again, which always feels like a defeat. I hate asking. They're not rich either, but they help when they can. I know they worry about me, but I don't want them to know how much I'm struggling. They've been through their own hardships, and I don't want to add to their burden. So, I just keep it to myself, pretending like everything's fine. They'll never know how often I lie awake at night wondering if I'll make it through the next month. I used to dream about traveling, seeing the world, starting a business, maybe even moving to a new city where I could start fresh. But those dreams feel more and more like distant memories, like something that belongs to a version of me that doesn't exist anymore. Every time I think about those dreams, I feel this tightness in my chest, like I'm holding on to something that's slipping through my fingers. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford to chase those dreams. Not unless something changes, something big. But I don't know what that could be, not in a world where everything feels so out of my control. And yet, I keep pushing forward. I keep going to work. I keep searching for something better. I have to believe there's a way out, even if it's hard to see. Maybe it's not about big dreams anymore. Maybe it's just about getting through the day, the week, the month. Maybe it's about finding peace in small things, in moments that remind me that I'm still here, still trying, still moving forward. Maybe that's all I can do for now. I think about the future, and it feels like there's a wall I can't get past. Every day feels like one more step further away from the things I wanted, the life I imagined. But maybe I'm just too close to the problem right now. Maybe one day I'll look back and see that this was just a part of the process, a lesson in resilience, a chapter that I can move on from when the time comes. For now, I hold on. I keep going. I tell myself that things will get better. That eventually, I'll catch a break. That I won't always be stuck in this cycle, forever fighting against an economy that doesn't seem to care if I survive. I have to believe that one day, I'll look back and wonder how I ever got through it. That's the hope that keeps me going, because right now, it feels like it's all I have. It's 7 a.m., and the sound of my alarm cuts through the haze of sleep like a needle through fabric. I can't even remember the last time I felt rested, let alone energized. The bed feels heavier these days, weighted by the layers of stress I'm carrying that seem to grow every morning. I roll out of bed, bleary-eyed, my phone already buzzing with notifications. Bills, emails from work, reminders of appointments I keep forgetting. The constant pressure to stay on top of everything has me feeling like I'm walking on a tightrope, and every small breeze threatens to knock me down. There's always something I didn't account for, an unexpected expense, an increase in rent, or another price hike on something I need. I open my bank app, hoping for some good news. But of course, there isn't any. My balance sits embarrassingly low. Again. I close the app quickly, like it'll somehow erase the harsh reality staring me in the face. I head into the kitchen to make some coffee, my second one of the morning. I know I shouldn't drink so much, but it's the only thing that keeps me going through the endless grind. The coffee tastes bitter, but at this point, I don't care. It's the little things like this, just managing to make it through the morning, that have become the highlights of my day. By the time I've finished getting ready, the weight in my chest is already there. The thought of facing another day in a system that feels designed to chew people like me up and spit them out looms over me. I've been working full-time since I graduated a few years ago, but it still feels like I'm running in place, never making any real progress. My student loans haven't even budged. Rent keeps going up, groceries are more expensive, and don't even get me started on healthcare. I feel like I'm constantly putting out fires, like just keeping the bills paid is a victory in itself. I head to work, and the commute has become a kind of ritual. It's the one time I can zone out and pretend my worries aren't with me. But they're always there, lurking in the back of my mind. The same questions cycle through my head: how long can I keep this up? Is there ever going to be enough? If I get sick, will I be able to afford treatment? And the worst one, what happens if I can't keep up anymore? At work, I'm one of the youngest employees. Sometimes I look around and wonder how everyone else is making it. There's Linda in HR, who just bought a new car. Then there's Ben, the senior analyst, who's talking about his summer vacation plans to Europe. Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out how to stretch the last $30 of my paycheck to last 2 weeks. They don't know how hard it is, how overwhelming the constant battle to stay afloat feels. I keep smiling, nodding, pretending everything's fine. It's easier that way. I've learned to get creative with my budgeting. The trick is to make it look like everything's okay, even when it's not. I skip meals sometimes, or eat cheaper, unhealthy food because it's all I can afford. When my friends suggest going out, I've become an expert at dodging the question or offering up some excuse. I just can't keep pretending that I'm living the life I want when I'm stuck in this cycle of barely scraping by. The emotional toll is something I don't talk about much. Sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. What if I don't make it? What if I'm stuck in this same place for the next decade, trapped by a system that doesn't care about me? It's suffocating, that feeling of constantly running and never getting anywhere. I've had dreams, big dreams, but they feel out of reach now. The idea of buying a house feels like a fantasy, the thought of traveling or even taking a break seems like a luxury I can't afford. I've had to postpone almost everything I've ever hoped for. A vacation, an apartment of my own, saving enough for a rainy day, it's all just somewhere in the distance, out of reach. I watch others around me take trips, buy new clothes, and I feel this mix of envy and shame. They have what I can't have, and it stings. It stings because I know I'm working just as hard, if not harder, and yet the difference is staggering. Their lives are on a completely different trajectory. Mine feels like it's stuck, like I'm standing still while the world moves forward. And then there's the guilt. The guilt of not being able to help my family more. My parents aren't in the best financial shape either. Every month, I try to send them something, even if it's just a small amount. But it never feels like enough. They tell me not to worry, that they'll manage, but I can see the stress in their eyes. I want to do more for them, but I can't even take care of myself fully. I keep telling myself that I'll make it one day, that I just need to hold on a little longer. But the truth is, some days it feels like I'm not sure how much longer I can hold on. There are moments, though, when I get this glimmer of hope. Maybe something will change. Maybe one day, my income will grow, or I'll find a job that pays what I'm worth. Maybe the system will finally shift and make things more accessible for people like me. But even those hopes feel fragile, like a light breeze could blow them out. Sometimes, I just want to scream, to throw my hands up and say, enough. But then I remember the bills that are due, the rent that's rising, and the looming uncertainty of what comes next. Screaming doesn't pay the bills. So, I keep going. I keep pushing through the days, one step at a time. There's a part of me that still clings to the idea that things will get better. That this is just a chapter, and someday I'll look back on this time and realize how far I've come. But the truth is, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point. For now, I just try to take it day by day. Sometimes, I find myself reflecting on the dreams I once had, the ones that felt so tangible and close. I used to think I'd be able to buy a house, or at least rent a place of my own in a nice neighborhood. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the limits of this city. I imagined living a life of stability, where I didn't have to constantly make trade-offs between paying bills and buying groceries. I hoped for a future where the weight of financial strain wasn't always sitting on my shoulders. But those dreams feel distant now. They're not gone, just postponed. I hold on to them like treasures in a box, waiting for the day when I'll be able to open it and see them come to life. Maybe that day will come. Or maybe it won't. Either way, I keep moving forward, not because I believe it's all going to be okay, but because stopping isn't an option. I've learned to survive, even when it feels like the world is working against me. Maybe that's all I can do for now. Maybe that's enough. I wake up in the morning, and it's the same routine: check my bank account, scan for any sign of hope or an unexpected deposit, and then I face the reality. There's not enough. The bills keep piling up: student loans, rent, utilities, car payments, and the balance in my account gets smaller with each passing day. It's like I'm stuck in a loop, a game where I'm always running but never getting any closer to winning. I've been feeling this weight for a while now, but lately, it's felt more suffocating. I'm a young adult, supposed to be stepping into my future with hope and excitement, but instead, I feel like I'm just trying to keep my head above water. There's a gnawing sense of anxiety in my chest every time I open the fridge and see it half empty, knowing I can't afford a grocery run that actually fills it up. I count every dollar that goes out, but there are always more dollars than I have. I'm constantly working, too. I work at a small marketing agency, but the pay barely covers my bills. The overtime doesn't really help either because, when it does come, it's still not enough to match the ever-growing expenses. I picked up side gigs, freelance writing, babysitting, even dog walking, but none of them fill the gap. The more I try to hustle, the more I feel like a hamster running on a wheel. I'm constantly moving but not really getting anywhere. The hustle culture tells me to push harder, to work smarter, to grind, but I'm already exhausted. And it's not like I don't have dreams. I do. I've always had big dreams. I wanted to travel the world, experience different cultures, see more than the four walls of this apartment. I had visions of a future where I had the freedom to create, whether it was starting my own business, moving to a city that inspired me, or just taking time off to reflect on life. But all those dreams seem so far out of reach now. I've put them on hold so many times that they feel like they're slipping through my fingers. Each time a bill arrives or a payment is due, another piece of my dream gets postponed. It's like I'm putting myself in a box, a little smaller every year, just trying to stay afloat. I wonder what it would feel like to be free of this pressure. To not calculate every expense, to not stress over whether I can afford gas this week or if I should skip a meal to save money. There's a part of me that feels ashamed of how little I have to show for all the work I put in. I'm working harder than I ever imagined, yet every month feels like a struggle. Some days, I think it would be easier to just give up and let the debt take me under. I know that's not an option, but when the stress piles on, it's hard not to feel defeated. I've had moments of hopelessness, where I sit down, unable to stop the tears, just wondering why things aren't getting better. It's not just the financial strain, though. It's the emotional toll of it. I've noticed myself becoming more withdrawn, more irritable. I don't hang out with friends as much anymore, not because I don't want to, but because I can't afford it. The thought of going to a bar or grabbing dinner out feels impossible right now. Even the things I used to do to unwind, like going for a walk or watching a movie, feel like luxuries. It's hard to explain to people that I don't have the energy or the money to do those things anymore without feeling embarrassed. I don't want to seem like I'm complaining all the time, so I smile and act like everything's okay, but the truth is, it's exhausting. I've had to learn how to cope with this constant stress, but the coping mechanisms aren't always healthy. There's the late-night online shopping, buying things I don't need just for the temporary dopamine boost. There's the way I numb my worries with junk food, knowing full well that it won't make me feel better in the long run. And then there's the worst one, comparison. Social media is a constant reminder of what I don't have. My friends post pictures of vacations, new outfits, and nights out. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in my apartment, watching the days blur together, wishing I could afford even a fraction of the life they seem to be living. It's hard not to resent them, even though I know it's not their fault. They've just figured out how to do it, how to make it work. And I'm still here, stuck. I've had conversations with my parents, who've always told me that things will get better if I keep working hard, that one day I'll look back and see how much I've grown. They say that the pressure is just a phase, that it's a part of being young and trying to establish myself. They mean well, but sometimes it feels like they don't fully understand. They didn't grow up in a time when the cost of living kept rising while wages remained stagnant. They didn't have to compete with the endless hustle culture that keeps telling us we're not doing enough, that we need to be better, faster, and more successful. Sometimes, I feel like I'm drowning in a world that doesn't really give people like me a chance to breathe. There are moments, though, when I think about the future and wonder if there's any way out of this. Will things ever get better, or will I always be stuck in this cycle? It's hard to keep believing that a brighter day is coming when everything feels like it's working against me. But I try to hold on to something, a glimmer of hope that things will change. Maybe one day, I'll have the job I want. Maybe I'll be able to save enough to travel, or even just breathe without feeling like I'm in survival mode. But the truth is, I don't know if that day will come. And that's the hardest part. I keep going because I have no other choice. The bills won't stop coming. The dreams I've pushed aside keep calling me, even when it feels like they're out of reach. I keep telling myself that this pressure won't last forever, that somehow I'll find a way to make it all work. Maybe I'll get a break, or maybe I'll just learn to live with this stress forever. Either way, I can't stop trying. Because if I do, then what's left? What do I have without hope? I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this: I'm not going to give up yet. I can't afford to. I wake up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand, another notification. It's always the same kind of thing, an alert from my bank telling me I've got $23 left in my account after the bills have been paid. I don't even need to check anymore. I know. Every day it's like this, just enough to get by and never more than that. The rent, the utilities, the car payment, insurance, everything's due, and every month I feel like I'm being buried deeper. I've been working 2 jobs since I graduated last year. A full-time gig at a marketing agency and part-time hours at a coffee shop. I knew it would be tough to make ends meet, but I didn't realize how much I'd have to sacrifice. The truth is, even after all that work, it's still not enough. If I'm being honest, I'm not even sure how long I can keep this up. When I was in college, I had all these grand ideas about what my future would look like. I thought I'd get a good job in my field and start building a life. Maybe even take a vacation, buy new clothes, get an apartment with a view. I used to dream about the small things, the ones that now feel impossibly out of reach. But now, even the idea of spending money on a simple night out with friends feels ridiculous. I can't afford it. I have to prioritize things like gas in my car so I can get to work or food for the week. The fun stuff has become a luxury I can't afford. The hardest part is how it feels to be stuck. It's like the economy is this giant, crushing weight, pushing me down further every day, and no matter how hard I try to get ahead, it just keeps going up. Rent prices keep rising, grocery costs are higher than ever, and student loan payments are a constant reminder of promises made to me about the payoff that never came. Every time I check my pay stub, I feel my stomach twist. It's not enough. Not by a long shot. There's this feeling of being trapped in a loop: wake up, go to work, come home, collapse, repeat. I don't get time to breathe, to think, to be anything other than a cog in the machine. Every decision I make is clouded by the looming question: can I afford this? Is this worth it? If I buy this meal, am I going to have to skip groceries next week? Can I still make my car payment if I need to get new tires? Every dollar feels like it's slipping through my fingers. It feels like I'm drowning in a sea of expenses, and no matter how hard I try to swim, I'm just being pulled under. And then there's the loneliness. It's not something I talk about, but it's there. Friends are living their lives, going out to eat, traveling, starting families, and here I am, watching from the sidelines. The worst part is when they ask me to hang out, to do something fun. I can't bring myself to say yes anymore. I don't want to admit that I'm living paycheck to paycheck, that I'm too ashamed to buy a $20 meal at a restaurant. Instead, I make excuses. I'm busy. I'm tired. It's easier to lie than to be vulnerable and say, I just can't afford it right now. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever get out of this cycle. If things will ever get better. I try to remind myself that it's temporary, that I'm just in a rough patch, but there's this nagging fear that it's never going to change. What if this is my reality forever? What if I'm always struggling to keep up, always waiting for the next paycheck to get through the next week? What if I never have enough? And it's not just about the money, it's about the stress that comes with it. The constant weight of never feeling secure, never feeling stable. I can't even relax in my own home, because all I can think about is what's coming next. What bills I haven't paid yet, how much more I need to make, what job offers are out there that might actually pay me enough to survive. It's not living, it's surviving. I feel like I've lost sight of what it means to thrive. I try to cope in small ways. I cut back on things I used to love. I stopped buying new clothes, wearing the same outfits over and over, sometimes multiple days in a row. I stopped going to the movies, stopped getting coffee from my favorite place. I stopped going out with my friends because it's just too much to bear. I make excuses, I retreat into myself, trying to convince myself it's okay. It's all just temporary, right? But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I let myself dream. I let myself imagine a future where I'm not struggling, where I can go to the grocery store without cringing at the price of a loaf of bread. I imagine walking into a store and buying something just because I like it, not because it's on sale or because I need it to replace something that's falling apart. I dream about the day when I can take a real vacation, go to a place where the sky is warm and the air smells like freedom. Maybe I could even save up for a house, something small, with a garden and a little porch. Maybe I could get a dog. But these dreams feel so distant. I wonder if they'll ever come true, or if they're just something I tell myself to get through the tough days. How long can I keep going like this? Can I keep pushing, or will I eventually break? There are days when I feel like giving up. When the weight of everything becomes too much to handle, and I wonder if it's all worth it. But then I remind myself that I can't quit. I can't let this be the end. I'm not ready to give up on the idea of something better, even though it feels like a distant dream. The thought of staying stuck in this financial rut forever scares me, but I can't let fear keep me from trying. So I keep going, even when it feels impossible. Sometimes I just need to remind myself that I'm not alone in this. Everyone is struggling in some way, even if it's not in the same way I am. I remind myself that it's okay to feel overwhelmed, to feel scared. This isn't permanent. I can make it through. It's just hard. And I think that's okay to admit. That this is hard, and I'm doing the best I can. So, I take it day by day. I keep working, keep saving, keep hoping that things will get better. And I keep dreaming, even if it feels like those dreams are out of reach for now. Because without those dreams, without that hope, I don't know how I'd keep going. Maybe someday, I'll look back and realize that this was just a chapter, one that eventually passed. But for now, I hold on to the belief that things can change. And I keep moving forward, even if I'm not sure exactly where I'm going. I guess that's all I can do. Keep going. One day at a time. I wake up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand, signaling the start of another day that feels both familiar and heavy. It's 7 a.m. My alarm hasn't gone off yet, but the day is already here. I stretch, trying to push away the weight on my chest, but it lingers as I sit up, rubbing my eyes. The sunlight peeks through the blinds and streaks, hitting the worn-out carpet in my apartment. It's not much, but it's mine. For now. The first thing I do is grab my phone to check the bank balance. Some might think that's a strange ritual, but after months of doing it, I can't stop. I guess it's my way of bracing myself. Today, like every other day, it's not enough. The number doesn't make me feel secure, it makes me feel like I'm walking a tightrope with no net. I have about $48 left until payday. That's not much when you have bills, groceries, gas, and every little unexpected cost that seems to pop up. I glance at the time. I've got to leave in about 30 minutes if I want to make it to work on time. But before I can even think about that, I pull up my budgeting app, again. The same one I check multiple times a day to see where I can squeeze out a little extra, make a dollar stretch a little further. It's always the same, though. Rent. Utilities. Car payment. Insurance. The things that don't bend, that keep growing no matter what. I want to cry because I don't know how I'm going to make it through another month. My mind races as I move through the motions of getting dressed, my clothes still fitting a little tighter than they should, a reminder of too many late-night meals of fast food and microwave dinners. I try not to look in the mirror for too long because the image staring back at me is one of someone who's exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally. But I don't have time to stand there and dwell. I pull on a sweater, throw on some jeans, and grab my shoes. The clock is ticking, and I'm running late. The morning commute is a blur of half-sleep and daydreams of a life that feels so far out of reach. I catch myself wishing for a little more ease, a little more room to breathe. There are days when I wonder how long I can keep juggling everything. Every morning, I hear the same questions in my head. Is this really what it's supposed to be like? Is this what my 20s are going to be? Stressed, strapped for cash, always worrying about the next bill, the next decision that feels like a weight too heavy to carry? Work is no better. I'm not one to complain, I'm grateful for the job. But the reality is that I'm underpaid, overworked, and constantly trying to keep up. The tasks pile up faster than I can check them off. Every hour feels like a grind, and at the end of the day, I can't even say it's worth it. The paycheck I take home barely covers the basics. I've had to make hard choices, no, impossible choices, about where to cut back. Do I pay the electric bill on time or do I buy groceries? Can I make rent this month, or do I delay it and hope my landlord doesn't notice? The worst part is that it feels like I don't have a choice. I have to keep going. There's no other option, even when my body screams that it's too much. At lunch, I scroll through social media, and I try to avoid feeling that gnawing sense of jealousy that creeps in when I see others living lives that seem so much easier, so much more full. Friends traveling, posting pictures of vacations, nice meals, or their new cars. I try not to compare myself to them, but it's hard. It's hard when I haven't had the chance to take a break in over a year. It's hard when my biggest luxury is getting a coffee from the drive-thru once a week because it's the only thing I can afford that makes me feel like I'm living, not just surviving. By the time I get home in the evening, I'm drained. I take a deep breath before stepping through the door, preparing myself for another round of paying bills. It feels like a game I can't win, no matter how hard I try. I should be thankful for the roof over my head, but all I can think about is the anxiety that builds up every time I look at my bank statement. The crushing reality is that nothing gets better. Every time I think I'm catching up, something else comes up. The car needs an oil change, my phone bill is higher than I expected, or my grocery costs have spiked. It's exhausting. I sit on the couch, staring at the TV without really watching it. My mind is somewhere else, somewhere I don't want to go but can't avoid. I think about the dreams I had when I was younger, the ones where I traveled, started my own business, or even just lived without constantly counting pennies. I think about how far away those dreams feel now, like they're fading with each passing day. I wonder if I'll ever be able to afford a real vacation, or if I'll ever be able to save enough to put a down payment on a house. I try not to think about how I'm falling behind. I know I'm not the only one struggling, but it doesn't make it feel any less personal. The world feels like it's moving faster than I am, and no matter how hard I work, it doesn't seem to be enough. Sometimes I think about the future. I wonder if I'll ever find a way out of this constant cycle, if I'll ever catch a break. The truth is, I'm scared. Scared of staying stuck, scared of never being able to save for retirement, scared of being caught in this never-ending loop of debt and bills. It feels like the cost of living keeps rising, while wages stay stagnant. It feels like a trap, and I'm suffocating inside it. But in the quiet moments, when I close my eyes and take a deep breath, I try to hold on to something, a sliver of hope. I try to remind myself that things don't stay the same forever. Maybe someday I'll find a way to climb out of this. Maybe there will be a better job, maybe I'll make enough to feel secure, maybe I'll finally be able to take that vacation. But right now, it's all just a dream I can barely reach. For now, I'll keep doing what I can. I'll keep budgeting, keep finding ways to make it through each day. I'll keep telling myself that this isn't forever. I'll hold on to the hope that there's more than this, that I'll find my way to something better, even if it feels like a distant possibility. Tomorrow, I'll wake up, check my bank balance, and brace myself for another day. And maybe, just maybe, I'll be one step closer to the life I've been dreaming of. But for now, I'll keep pushing through. It feels like the walls are closing in, and every time I take a breath, it gets harder to fill my lungs. I'm 25, just out of college, and yet somehow, it feels like I'm stuck in a perpetual game of catch-up. I wake up every morning with that same dull ache in my chest, a pressure, a weight, a fear. I can't remember when it started, but it's there now, constantly. At first, I thought the stress would pass. I thought that maybe, just maybe, once I got my foot in the door with my first full-time job, things would stabilize. But instead, the opposite is happening. It's like everything is speeding up while I'm standing still. Rent is higher than ever. Gas prices are through the roof. Even my utility bills have increased. And somehow, my paycheck hasn't kept up. I don't even know how to explain it, except to say that there's always something, always a bill, a payment, an expense I didn't plan for, eating away at whatever little money I have left. I try to budget. I really do. Every month, I set aside a small amount for savings, hoping that if I stay disciplined, I can start building something for the future. But by the time the next bill rolls around, I find myself dipping into that savings just to survive. It's a never-ending cycle, and I'm so tired of it. There's no escape. I used to think about things like buying a house one day, maybe traveling, or just, I don't know, living without constantly worrying about money. But now? Now, all I dream about is just making it through the week. It feels like those bigger dreams are for other people, the ones with family wealth or those who managed to get that perfect job right out of school. Me? I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Some nights, when I lie in bed, I stare at the ceiling and think about how much of my life is spent working for survival, not for growth or enjoyment. I have a job I don't hate, but it's not what I envisioned when I was younger. I wanted to change the world, or at least do something that felt meaningful. Now, it's just about getting through the day, making sure I don't fall behind. I can't afford to dream anymore, not in the way I used to. I tell myself it's okay, people have it worse. And maybe that's true. There are people who are struggling just to eat, just to make it through the day. But sometimes, it doesn't feel okay. Sometimes, the pressure feels suffocating. And the worst part is, I don't know who to turn to. No one in my life really gets it. They'll say things like, just cut back on spending, or, it'll get better, just keep going. But they don't understand the way prices are rising faster than wages, the way everything feels out of control. I watch people on social media, scrolling through their vacation pictures, their new cars, their seemingly perfect lives. I know it's not real, that people only share what they want others to see. But it's hard not to feel a pang of envy. Sometimes, I wonder what my life would be like if I could just have a little breathing room, if I didn't have to worry about the next bill, the next rent increase, or the next unavoidable cost. I don't think people realize how draining it is. It's not just the financial pressure, it's the mental and emotional toll. It's the constant guilt for buying anything that isn't a necessity. It's feeling like I've failed if I treat myself to a meal out or a cup of coffee from a cafe. It's the anxiety I feel when I open my bank app, knowing I'm getting close to the point where I can't afford to pay everything. It's the exhaustion that comes from working hard, day in and day out, only to look at my paycheck and realize that it won't be enough. I cope by working more. I take on extra shifts, pick up freelance work whenever I can. But it's like running on a treadmill. The faster I go, the more exhausted I get, and yet I'm not getting any closer to my destination. I've tried to talk to my friends about it, but it's hard to explain the depth of this feeling, the fear that I'll never be able to break free from this cycle. They say they understand, but their lives seem different, somehow. They're not living paycheck to paycheck. They don't feel like they're suffocating. And sometimes, I feel guilty for feeling so defeated. Because, in the grand scheme of things, I have a lot to be thankful for. I have a roof over my head. I have food on the table. I'm not in crippling debt, at least not yet. But that doesn't make the stress go away. It doesn't make the pressure feel any less real. I think about the future sometimes, but it's hard to imagine anything beyond today. What happens when I'm 30 or 40? How long can this go on? Will I ever be able to save enough to retire? Will I ever be able to afford a home of my own? Or am I doomed to be stuck in this cycle forever? I want to believe that there's a way out. I want to believe that if I keep working hard, if I just keep pushing, things will get better. But deep down, there's a fear that keeps gnawing at me, that the system is built in such a way that no matter how hard I work, I'll always be a few steps behind. Sometimes, I catch myself in a moment of quiet reflection and wonder what I would do if money weren't an issue. I imagine traveling, seeing the world, or maybe even taking some time off to focus on a passion project. I think about starting a business, doing something that would make me excited to wake up every morning. But those thoughts feel like fantasies, beautiful, unreachable fantasies. I try to hold on to hope, even when it feels thin and fragile. I remind myself that I'm not alone, that millions of people are in the same boat, struggling with the same fears and challenges. Maybe that's what keeps me going, that shared sense of resilience, of fighting for something better, even when the odds are stacked against us. I know that, somehow, I'll keep moving forward. I don't know how, and I don't know when, but I'll keep going. Maybe one day, things will change. Maybe one day, I'll get a break. Until then, though, I'll keep waking up every morning, facing the pressure, and doing my best to stay afloat. It's not easy. It's not glamorous. But it's my reality. And right now, that's all I can hold on to. I just hope that someday, I'll be able to breathe again. I wake up early, the same way I always do. The sunlight slants through the blinds, casting that sickly yellowish glow that makes everything look like it's on the edge of a bad day. It's only 6:30, but I'm already thinking about how to get through the next 12 hours, trying to find ways to manage, juggle, and minimize the damage. First, I check my bank account. It's become a habit now, but it's always like staring at a car wreck. Part of me wants to look away, but the other part needs to know. The balance is almost the same as it was yesterday, which is a small relief. Still, it's not enough to make any major decisions. My rent is due next week, the student loan payment is scheduled, and my phone bill, that's another one. I'll figure something out, I tell myself. I always do. But every month, the same thing happens, my expenses grow faster than my income. I get the feeling that I'm running just to stay in place, and it's exhausting. I've started tracking everything with an app now: gas, groceries, utilities, the occasional takeout, even the coffee I grab on the way to work because I'm too tired to make my own. Every little thing gets logged, but no matter how much I track, it feels like it's never enough. The numbers just don't add up. And there's this constant pressure in the back of my mind. It's a low hum, always there. I get home from work and sit on the couch for a while, staring at the walls, not sure what to do next. I try not to think about the future, but it's hard not to. Every day feels like I'm treading water, but the ocean's only getting deeper. Last night, I was at my friend Maya's place. She's doing better than me, has a steady job, a savings account that doesn't make her nervous, and a few extra perks in her life. We talked about the future, like we used to, and I couldn't help but notice how her eyes sparkled when she talked about things like travel and moving to a new city. I felt embarrassed when I realized how little I had to contribute to the conversation. My dreams are smaller these days. The thing is, I used to have big dreams. I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to travel to Japan, to see the cherry blossoms in full bloom. I wanted to buy my own place, even if it was a small apartment with a sliver of a view. Now, those things feel out of reach, distant, as if they belong to someone else who's not struggling with bills that never seem to stop coming. I guess I never realized how easily things could slip through your fingers. The conversation turned to a trip she's planning to New Orleans with some friends, and I smiled as she talked about it. But inside, something tightens in my chest. I couldn't imagine spending that kind of money, not with everything going on. She noticed, though, I'm sure she did. You should come, she said. We'd have so much fun, and it wouldn't be the same without you. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to be the person who could afford to just get up and go, but I couldn't. Not this time, and probably not for a long time. I tried to laugh it off, but that tight feeling didn't go away. When I left her place, I could barely hold it together. I just walked around for a while, not really sure where I was going. It wasn't until I reached the park that I stopped and sat on a bench. The city felt different at night, quieter, more distant, like it was trying to tell me something I didn't want to hear. There are moments like that when it feels like the world's moving on without me, and I'm stuck here trying to figure out how to stay afloat. I get so tired, and yet I can't afford to rest. I still go to work, still try to do my best, but when the workday ends, it's like I'm back to square one. There's always something, always a bill, always a reminder that the future I once imagined is just a far-off idea, fading with each passing month. I do my best to cope. Sometimes, it's just focusing on the little things that make life feel a bit more bearable. Like when I treat myself to a cheap meal at a food truck. Or when I binge-watch a show I've been meaning to catch up on. Or when I walk around the city and pretend I'm just one of those people who have their life together. Maybe if I can fake it enough, it will become real. But then there are the moments when I can't pretend. The pressure feels too real. Like when my mom asks how things are going, and I try to smile, but I can't hide the exhaustion in my eyes. She tells me not to worry, that things will get better, but I can tell she's worried too. She doesn't say it out loud, but I can hear it in her voice, in the way she tries to offer me advice I know she doesn't have all the answers to. I sometimes wonder how everyone else does it. There are people who seem to have figured it out, those friends who buy new clothes every season, or the coworkers who talk about their vacations like they're no big deal. It feels like the world's moving faster, and I'm stuck in this place where I can barely keep up. It's like trying to run on a treadmill that's set too fast, but I'm not strong enough to keep up. And yet, there's a part of me that refuses to give up. Maybe it's stubbornness, or maybe it's just that spark of hope that lingers despite everything. I tell myself that things will change, that eventually I'll be able to breathe without feeling like my chest is being crushed. I can't give up on that hope, no matter how small or fragile it seems. I dream about the future, even when I try not to. I think about what it would be like to be free from the constant anxiety over money. Maybe I'd get a dog, something small and comforting, a companion who doesn't care about bills or student loans. Maybe I'd finally travel, even if it's just for a weekend, just to feel like I'm not stuck in this endless cycle. Maybe one day, I'll look at my bank account and see something that gives me confidence, something that doesn't make my heart race in fear. But those dreams, the ones that once felt so tangible, are harder to reach now. And I can't help but wonder how long it will take before I stop reaching altogether. I don't know what the future holds. Right now, it feels like a blur, like I'm trying to walk towards something I can't even see. All I can do is keep going, keep doing what I can to get through each day. Maybe, just maybe, one day I'll catch up. Maybe one day, I'll be able to breathe again. Until then, I'll keep waking up at 6:30, checking my account, and pretending everything's fine. Because sometimes, that's all you can do when you're stuck in a world that keeps pushing you further behind. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing beside my bed. It's a message from my bank notifying me that my paycheck has been deposited. I roll over and check the balance. It's the same amount as last time, barely enough to cover rent, let alone the other things I've been putting off. Another month, another scramble to make ends meet. I've gotten so used to this, the constant balancing act of making sure the bills don't pile up too high. It's not even that I'm bad with money, though. I suppose that's the story they'd like to tell. The story the world tells us. If you just worked harder, if you just saved more, if you were smarter with your choices. But here I am, 23 years old, and I can barely stay afloat. The rent was due last week, and of course, I had to ask my mom for help. She's retired, so I know it hurts her to give me anything, but she does it anyway. I've never liked asking her, but it's become a routine. I try not to make her feel like a bank, but sometimes it feels like there's no other option. The other bills are just as relentless. The phone bill is next, and I've already pushed back the car insurance payment. I'm constantly waiting for the next overdue notice, the next call, the next email telling me that I've missed another deadline. I get ready for work, though it feels less like getting ready and more like preparing for battle. My uniform feels stiff against my skin. I work as a barista at a coffee shop, which is one of those jobs where you're grateful to have any income at all, but at the same time, it feels like it's not even worth the effort anymore. The tips are inconsistent, depending on the customers. Some days, I feel like I'm hustling for pennies, and other days, it's just silence. I'd like to blame the economy, but if I'm honest, I think it's mostly because of the tipping culture. Most people expect a great experience, but don't always want to contribute to the wages of the people making their drinks. Sometimes it feels like the entire system is rigged against people like me. Like we're all stuck in a race where the rules are always changing, and we're expected to just keep running faster. I catch a glimpse of myself in the coffee shop's reflection. I look tired. I know I'm not the only one feeling it, everyone I talk to at work is in the same boat. A coworker, Jess, tells me she hasn't been able to buy groceries for the last 2 weeks. Another guy, Mark, says he's trying to sell his car because he can't afford the gas anymore. It's hard to focus on the job when all you can think about is how to make sure you can eat, or how to avoid another late fee. I used to dream of being a writer. I used to spend hours scribbling down stories in notebooks, lost in the worlds I created. Now, I barely have the energy to check my email, let alone write a novel. The thought of publishing one day feels like a fantasy from someone else's life. I head home after work, and the apartment feels suffocating. It's small, and the rent takes up more than half of what I make. I've been cutting back on heating, even in the winter, because I can't afford it. There's a sense of dread in my stomach, because I know that if something goes wrong, if I get sick, or if my car breaks down, I'm not sure how I'll handle it. I don't even have an emergency fund. It's all just a matter of barely keeping up. I sit down on the couch and pull up my bank account again, hoping I somehow missed a deposit. But no. The same balance stares back at me. I scroll through the endless list of automatic payments, insurance, subscriptions I don't use anymore, a loan repayment. The numbers seem to grow each month, like they're mocking me. I keep telling myself I'll get ahead eventually, but it feels like that future is always just out of reach. I can't even imagine what it would feel like to be debt-free, to have savings that weren't already earmarked for something else. I postponed so many dreams. I had plans once, like everyone else. I wanted to travel, see new places, write books, make a difference. Now, my big goals are more immediate: make rent, buy food, keep the lights on. Sometimes I think about giving up my car altogether, but then I remember how hard it would be to get to work without it. Public transportation is barely an option where I live, and it would add hours to my day just to get anywhere. So I pay for gas, and I squeeze into the tightest lanes, pushing my car to its limits, hoping I don't end up stranded on the side of the road with no money to get it fixed. I've tried to take small steps to feel like I'm getting ahead. I cut out the things that feel like luxuries, the streaming services, the extra takeout. I buy generic brands, clip coupons, walk to the store instead of driving. I've started carrying my lunch to work. It helps a little, but not enough to make a real difference. Every day, I see more things that I know I can't afford. Things I need, things I want, and things I dream of having. I wonder if I'll ever get to a place where I don't have to worry about it all the time. Where the stress isn't constant, always hovering like a cloud in my mind. In the evenings, I scroll through social media, watching people travel to beautiful places or get promotions at jobs I can't even imagine holding. I don't hate them for it, but it does hurt. I wonder if I'll ever have a moment where I feel like I've made it, where I can stop worrying about the next bill or the next financial setback. I can't even picture what that would look like anymore. Instead, I try to remind myself that this isn't forever. That eventually, things will change. I tell myself that the next job, the next opportunity, the next step will get me out of this hole. But right now, that future feels far away, and sometimes I wonder if it's even possible to escape this cycle. I fall asleep most nights feeling like I've been treading water all day, exhausted but nowhere closer to the shore. And I dream. I dream of a life where I don't have to count every penny, where I don't have to ask for help, where I can breathe without feeling the weight of every financial decision crushing me. But when I wake up, it's back to the grind. The pressure is still there, a constant presence in my life. And yet, I'm still here. I still show up to work. I still try, even when everything feels like it's going wrong. Because what else can I do? The bills don't stop coming, and I can't afford to stop trying. So I keep going. I keep hoping that one day I'll catch a break. Maybe tomorrow will be the day everything turns around. Maybe not. But I'll keep waking up, and I'll keep pushing forward, because that's all I can do. For now, the dream of something more feels distant, but I still hold on to it. Even if I have to carry it like a secret, a promise to myself that one day, I'll get there. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. I'll get there. I wake up to the same feeling every morning, the cold, numbing reality that I'm running on empty. My phone buzzes next to my bed, and I reach for it instinctively. It's a notification from my bank. Another charge. Another fee. Every day feels like a countdown to the next bill, the next expense, and the next wave of stress. I roll over and stare at the ceiling. I can't remember the last time I slept through the night without waking up in a panic, wondering if I'll make it to the next paycheck. It's a funny thing, this whole adulthood thing. When I was younger, I thought grown-up meant having it together, owning a house, buying what you want when you want, not having to count pennies at the grocery store. Now, all I feel is trapped. I try not to think about it too much. I get out of bed, stumble to the kitchen, and brew some coffee. Coffee is one of those small comforts I allow myself. I tell myself it's an investment, something that gives me a little bit of energy to face the day. It's a delicate balance, though, because I know the money I spend on coffee could go toward gas or groceries or the rent I haven't yet figured out how to pay in full this month. It feels like a game of mental gymnastics. How much can I cut back without losing what little sanity I have left? But I'm used to it by now. Every day is a tightrope walk. I think about my friends, the ones who don't have to make these kinds of calculations. The ones who can go out for dinner without second-guessing whether they can afford it. I want that freedom. I want to not worry about checking my account balance after every purchase. But I can't help myself. I check it anyway. It's part of my daily ritual, staring at those numbers, waiting for some miracle to make them grow, to make them stretch further than they ever seem to. But it never happens. The bills come in faster than my paycheck. The rent goes up every year. Gas prices fluctuate, and groceries are suddenly a luxury. And all I can do is watch as the gap widens, as I find myself with less and less each month, even though I'm working harder than ever. I've got a full-time job and a part-time gig, but I can't seem to catch up. Even on days when I feel like I'm managing okay, it's only a matter of time before something unexpected happens, a doctor's appointment, a car repair, or the simple fact that the cost of living has crept up again. Today, I've got a meeting with my boss at work. I know this is the part where I'm supposed to show up and impress, but all I can think about is the last time I asked for a raise. I didn't get it. In fact, I was told I wasn't performing up to expectations. My stomach twists as I get ready for the meeting, wondering if today will be the day I'll be told to work harder for the same pay. I know they expect more from me. They always do. But there's nothing more to give. After the meeting, I'll go to my side job. It's just a few hours a week, but it's something. It feels like I'm doing something productive, even though I know deep down that it's just a patch on a sinking ship. The extra money doesn't fix anything. It just makes the hole a little smaller for a little while. I sit at my desk and stare at the screen, pretending to be focused, while my mind drifts to the big picture. I think about the dreams I used to have. I used to want to travel, to live in a place where I could afford to do the things I love, writing, painting, going to concerts. But now? The idea of a vacation feels like a distant memory. Even a weekend getaway feels out of reach. I can't remember the last time I took a break without feeling guilty about it. There's a part of me that wonders if I'll ever have the life I imagined. It feels like everyone else is moving ahead, but I'm stuck. The world keeps telling me that if I work hard enough, I'll make it. But what happens when the world keeps changing faster than I can catch up? When the cost of living rises and wages stay the same, it feels like I'm running in place. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone in this. It's just the way things are now. Everyone my age seems to be struggling with something: student loans, credit card debt, rent prices that have doubled in the last few years. Everyone is working more and earning less. But it doesn't make it feel any better. It just feels like I'm another person in the system, another cog in the machine. When I get home after my side job, I collapse onto the couch. It's a brief moment of rest, but it's a strange kind of emptiness too. I don't have the energy to enjoy anything anymore. I try to watch TV, but I can't focus. My mind is always racing, always thinking about the next thing I need to do, the next payment I need to make. I think about my parents, how they always told me that if I worked hard enough, everything would fall into place. But they didn't tell me that hard work wouldn't always be enough. They didn't tell me that the world is set up in such a way that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you'll still fall short. It's hard not to feel bitter about it. I want to be optimistic, to hold on to hope, but it's like trying to catch water in my hands. The more I try, the more it slips away. I look around at the things I've had to let go of, the hobbies I used to love, the dreams of building a future, the plans I had for travel, for exploring the world, for having a life that didn't revolve around surviving from paycheck to paycheck. What gets me through is the small moments. The little wins that feel like mountains: paying off a small bill, finding a cheap coffee place, managing to set aside a few dollars for savings. They're rare, but they're enough to keep me going. I know that if I keep pushing, maybe things will change someday. Maybe I'll be able to afford to live in a nicer place or take a break without feeling like I'm drowning in debt. But for now, I just keep moving. One day at a time. Sometimes I wonder if this is just the way things are now, that the American dream is a myth, that it's not really meant for people like me. But I push those thoughts away. I remind myself that I'm doing my best, even if it doesn't feel like enough. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and check my bank account again. And I'll keep going, because what else is there to do? Maybe someday, this cycle will end. Maybe I'll catch a break. But until then, I'll keep fighting, even if it's just to make it through the next day. I wake up every morning to the same sound, my phone vibrating against the bedside table, a constant reminder that I'm late, late for work, late on bills, late on dreams. I roll over, squint at the time, and sigh. 7:15 a.m. It's already too late for me to get everything done before I have to leave. But that's the thing, isn't it? In this life, there's no such thing as catching up. You're either constantly behind, or you're just staying afloat in a sea of obligations. I'm still trying to figure out which one I am. I work 2 jobs now, one as a barista and the other as a part-time assistant in a co-working space. The days blur together. Some days, I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water, and others, I wonder how I'm still standing at all. When I was younger, I thought things would get better as I got older. I thought that being an adult would mean having control over my life, like I'd be in charge of my own destiny. But it's like I was handed a script to a play I didn't audition for, where the only role I can play is the one that makes ends meet. I get up, stretch, and go straight to the bathroom. The reflection staring back at me isn't one I recognize anymore. Dark circles under my eyes. My hair a tangled mess. I brush my teeth in silence, the weight of the world pressing down on me. It's been a while since I've felt truly relaxed, since I've felt anything resembling joy. It's like I'm running on empty, and the more I push myself, the more I realize there's nothing left to give. The cost of living is ridiculous. I remember when rent was something I could almost manage. Now, it's eating away at everything. The landlord's letter for the rent increase sits on the counter, unopened. I can't bring myself to read it. I know it's coming. It's going to be a couple $100 more. And what's funny is, there's no way to argue it. Not when everything else is just as inflated. Gas, groceries, utilities, everything I buy feels like a lottery ticket. One wrong decision, and I'm stuck. On the bus to work, I scroll through my phone, checking the weather, emails, anything to distract myself from the panic that builds with every passing minute. I think about the things I've had to let go of, trips I'll never take, hobbies I've stopped pursuing because they cost money or time. I miss writing. I used to write all the time. My notebooks are full of half-finished stories, scraps of ideas that I never had the time to finish. It's been months since I picked up a pen. Maybe longer. There's no time anymore. No space. I feel trapped in this endless loop of work and survival. I feel like I'm always catching up but never quite reaching the point where I can breathe easy. It's not even the big things anymore. It's the small decisions that haunt me. Should I get the generic brand of toothpaste that's 50 cents cheaper, or should I splurge and get the one I know works better? Should I buy lunch or skip it to save $8? These little calculations consume me. I spend more time thinking about my budget than I do thinking about the future. I wonder if the future will ever come, or if I'm destined to live like this forever, stressed, exhausted, and never quite satisfied with anything. The hardest part isn't the money. It's the weight of it all. The emotional toll of never feeling like you're doing enough. When I sit down to pay bills at the end of the month, it feels like I'm performing a ritual that doesn't get me anywhere. I open my laptop, pull up the bank statements, and try to balance what I owe against what I have. It's never enough. There's always a shortage. The numbers just don't add up. I could work myself into the ground, and it still wouldn't be enough to fix the fundamental imbalance. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it. I know I'm not alone in this struggle. Everyone I know is dealing with something similar, friends who are working multiple jobs, family members who are stretched thin, people my age trying to navigate a world that feels like it's been built to keep us in a state of constant survival. There's no safety net anymore. No promises that things will get better. The idea of owning a home, or even renting somewhere that isn't a dump, feels like a distant dream, if not an outright impossibility. I tell myself that maybe someday, if I work hard enough, if I save enough, I'll be able to breathe again. But every day that passes, I realize that the dream of financial freedom is slipping further away, like sand through my fingers. I don't know when I lost my sense of hope. Maybe it happened gradually, or maybe one day I just woke up and realized I had been holding my breath for far too long. But the truth is, I'm scared. Scared of the future. Scared that things will only get worse. There's this constant undercurrent of anxiety in my life that never fully goes away. I can't shake it. It's like a low hum in my chest, always there, always reminding me of how fragile everything is. But here's the thing, I keep going. I keep waking up every day and putting one foot in front of the other. Some days, I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Other days, I feel like I might actually have a shot at making something of myself. I dream about what it would be like to have a life without the constant pressure of money hanging over my head. I dream about waking up in the morning and not feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me, about being able to take a day off without worrying about the bills piling up. I haven't given up on my dreams. Not completely. I still hope that one day, maybe, I'll be able to write again, really write, not just scribble in notebooks that end up collecting dust. I hope that I'll be able to go on a vacation someday, to experience the world outside of the cycle I'm stuck in. But most of all, I hope for a future where I don't have to sacrifice my mental health just to survive. A future where money doesn't define who I am or what I can do. I don't know how to get there. But I keep going, because what else can I do? Sometimes, that's enough. I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the bedside table. It's early, too early. The apartment's quiet, but I already know what's waiting for me. Another morning of dread. My bank account is still in the red. It's not that I haven't been trying, it's just that every time I take one step forward, something else pulls me 2 steps back. Rent's due in a week. My credit card bills have piled up, and the student loan payments, they don't stop. No one tells you that it's not the degree you need, it's the money to pay for it. And even when you have that piece of paper, it's not enough to keep the stress at bay. I pull the covers back and sit on the edge of the bed. The chill of the floor sends a wave of discomfort through my body, but that's nothing compared to the weight in my chest. I'm 25. I should be figuring things out by now, right? But it feels like I'm just surviving. One bill, one late fee, one missed payment at a time. I can already hear my thoughts racing. Can I make it through another month? Is this all there is? Will I ever have enough money to live without this constant pressure? I know I'm not alone in this. I see it all around me, friends posting vacation pictures on social media, boasting about their latest gadgets, or talking about getting a new car. Meanwhile, I can't even afford to buy myself a coffee without checking my balance first. The worst part isn't the scarcity of money, it's the way it makes me feel invisible. Like everyone else is moving forward while I'm stuck here, constantly recalculating whether I can afford to eat this week. Sometimes, I wonder if I've become numb to it. But then a new bill shows up, or a rent increase hits, and that pressure comes flooding back. I can't remember the last time I didn't think about money. It's always there, hovering over every conversation, every decision, every moment. I head to the kitchen, my bare feet slapping against the cold tile. The fridge is mostly empty, except for some leftover pasta and a few condiments. I think about buying groceries, but I know I'll have to wait until my next paycheck. So, I opt for the pasta, something to fill my stomach. But even as I heat it up, the nagging voice in my head whispers, asterisk, what if something comes up? What if you have to pay an unexpected fee, asterisk, it feels like there's no room to breathe. Every day, I calculate my expenses like a mathematician trying to solve an unsolvable equation. Rent, utilities, transportation, food. It never ends. And all I can do is try to manage what little I have, hoping I don't mess up and fall further into debt. I glance at the calendar, another month gone by, and I'm still in the same place. I should be looking forward to more, right? But all I can think about is what I'm going to have to sacrifice. Do I skip the doctor's appointment because it's not urgent? Do I let the car insurance payment slide for a week? These are the kinds of decisions I make on a regular basis, decisions that shouldn't be necessary at my age. A message comes through from my mom. She checks in every day, offering words of encouragement. I know she means well, but I can't help but feel guilty. She's doing the best she can on her end, but I'm starting to see that her words are more about trying to comfort herself than actually helping me. The truth is, she doesn't get it. She hasn't had to navigate this kind of financial uncertainty. I'm grateful for her love, but it's not enough. It's not going to fix the reality I'm facing. I try to avoid my friends' social media posts, but I can't help it. Everyone's living their lives. They're buying houses, having babies, getting promotions. And I'm stuck in this cycle, where every day feels like I'm just trying to stay afloat. I can't keep up. I'm tired of pretending that I'm okay when I'm not. I feel the shame creeping in, the sense of failure. Maybe I didn't plan well enough, maybe I made the wrong choices. But the thing is, I did what I thought was right. I followed the steps I was supposed to: go to college, get a degree, find a job. But somehow, none of it adds up. I used to dream about traveling, seeing the world, living in a city that felt alive with possibility. I imagined long nights out with friends, laughing over drinks, feeling like I had a future that wasn't defined by the next paycheck. But those dreams are fading, slipping further and further away as reality sinks in. Every time I think about what I want for myself, I think about the weight of my bank account and what I can't afford. Instead of going out with friends this weekend, I'll be working overtime, just trying to make ends meet. When I used to imagine the future, I saw myself flourishing. But now, I wonder if I'll ever get out of this cycle. What if this is it? What if I'm destined to always struggle? There are moments when I feel like I'm suffocating. My apartment feels smaller every time I sit in it, trapped in the same routine. I can't help but wonder if there's a way out of this, if there's something I'm missing, some secret that everyone else seems to know except me. But then, I remind myself, this is just a phase, right? It's not forever. But then the question comes, how long is a phase? How long do I have to keep telling myself that it'll get better, when everything keeps getting worse? I tell myself to hold on. I tell myself to keep pushing. Because what else can I do? I remind myself of the little victories, the extra hours I pick up at work, the nights I spent studying to get this job, the fact that I haven't gone into full-blown panic mode, yet. These are the small triumphs that keep me going, but they don't feel like enough. I've had to put off so many things I once looked forward to: buying a car, moving to a better apartment, taking a real vacation. And maybe it's silly, but I mourn those dreams sometimes. I mourn the future I thought I'd have, the one where I wasn't constantly checking my bank account, wondering if I'd be okay. The worst part of it is that I know I'm not alone. There are so many people my age, and even older, feeling this exact same thing. We're all out here, grinding, trying to make it work, hoping that one day we'll catch a break. But it doesn't always feel like that's coming. Some days, it feels like I'm just running on a treadmill, trying harder and harder, but not going anywhere. Still, I hold on to the hope that maybe tomorrow will be better. That one day, I'll be able to breathe without wondering how I'll pay for the next bill. Maybe one day, I'll get to live the life I always dreamed of, the one where money doesn't feel like the only thing that matters. But for now, I'll just keep going, because what else is there to do? I tell myself it's just a season, and eventually, I'll look back at this time and see how far I've come. But right now, it feels like I'm just treading water, hoping that I don't drown in the meantime. I can only keep my head above water, and for now, that has to be enough. I don't remember exactly when it started feeling like I was always on the edge, but I know it's been a while now. Some days it feels like the weight of everything is just too much, like I'm carrying a stack of bills in my chest, growing taller and heavier each day, pushing the air out of my lungs. I used to be someone who believed that if you worked hard enough, you could make things work. But now? Now, I feel like I'm running in place. The numbers never stop. It's like they have a life of their own, moving faster than I can catch up. Rent. Utilities. The car payment. Insurance. The cost of food, which feels like it's gone up every single week. And then there are the little things: gas, toiletries, even just taking the bus or grabbing a coffee when I'm feeling low. I've always been someone who tries to make the best of things, but lately, it feels like I'm drowning in the small stuff that keeps piling up. Every time I make a small improvement, like paying off a credit card, there's something else that hits me out of nowhere, like my phone breaking or a sudden medical expense. It's like life is playing a cruel joke, giving me just enough breathing room to think I'm doing okay, only to yank it away again. I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, it's never just about the money. It's about the constant stress of knowing that no matter how much I work or how much I sacrifice, there's always a new cost coming for me. It makes everything else feel irrelevant, like my dreams are just this abstract idea I had when I was younger. A degree I worked hard for, but can't fully use because the job market is flooded. A dream of travel, of seeing the world beyond my tiny apartment. I want to believe I can still chase those things, but every time I feel like I'm close, another bill comes in, or something else breaks, or, worst of all, my savings account dips lower. There are days when I don't even look at my bank account. I just avoid it. Checking it makes everything worse. The notifications and alerts that pop up on my phone, reminders of bills coming due, credit card balances climbing, those are like tiny hammers to the skull. Each one feels like a reminder of how much I can't seem to escape. I wonder how much longer I can keep pretending that I have it together. Some days, I just don't want to deal with it at all. I'll binge watch something on Netflix, scroll through social media, do anything to numb the feeling of impending doom. But it doesn't work. The anxiety doesn't go away. It sits there in the pit of my stomach, waiting to pounce when I least expect it. I don't talk about it much with my friends, though. They have their own struggles, their own lives. I don't want to be that person who always complains about money. So, I keep it to myself. But sometimes, when I hear someone else talk about the pressure of bills or expenses, I feel this strange sense of relief, like I'm not the only one struggling to stay afloat in this crazy, out-of-control system. There's this odd guilt that comes with the feeling of wanting to escape. I see people on social media living their best lives, traveling to exotic places, buying new things, and I think, how? How are they doing this? How are they managing to live this way while I'm just trying to survive another day? Then I get angry at myself for comparing my life to theirs, but it's hard not to. I know it's all curated, it's all a highlight reel, but it still stings. I try to be practical about it. I've learned to budget, I've tried to limit myself to only buying essentials. I meal prep and avoid takeout. I don't get my nails done or go to the movies with my friends anymore. I don't splurge on new clothes or even visit family much because I can't afford the gas. It's like every single thing that brings joy or a sense of normalcy has been trimmed down, leaving me with the bare minimum. I get excited when I can go a few days without worrying about my balance dipping too low. But that's where I am now, a life of constant worry, no room to relax, no room to breathe. It's hard to explain to anyone who doesn't feel it, but there's this gnawing fear that everything could come crashing down if one thing goes wrong. If I lose my job, if something happens to my health, if my car breaks down, if rent goes up, if... It feels like this web that I'm stuck in, unable to untangle. I'm always trying to find a way out, but it feels like there's no clear path. I'm stuck in a system that's so out of control, so rigged against people like me. I try to hold on to hope. Sometimes, in those quiet moments, I think about what I want for the future. I think about how I want to travel, to live somewhere I love, to have enough savings to not be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I want to have a career that means something, not just a job to pay bills. But even those thoughts start to feel like a joke. The dream is so far away. There are so many barriers that I don't even know where to start. I think about what I've had to put off, the plans to go back to school, the trip I promised myself I'd take when I got my first full-time job, the idea of saving up for a house. I wonder if those things will ever happen, or if I'm just fooling myself by holding on to them. But I keep going. I keep going because that's all I can do. I don't have a choice. Every day, I wake up, try to make sure I'm doing everything I can to stay afloat, and push through the exhaustion. I've learned to be resourceful, to make do, to be patient. But it's hard not to lose hope. It's hard not to feel like I'm trapped in a cycle that's impossible to escape. And some days, when I'm alone and the silence is too much, it feels like the walls are closing in, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep pretending like I'm okay. I don't know what the future holds. Some days, I think about how I can make things better, how I can find a way to break free from this constant pressure. Maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe I won't. But I can't stop dreaming, even if it feels impossible. Maybe, just maybe, there's a way out. Maybe one day, I won't feel like I'm always drowning. Until then, I'll keep going. I'll keep working, keep pushing, keep trying to find a way to live outside of this cage of bills and stress. I just hope one day I can breathe again. There's a constant buzz in my head. I can't seem to turn it off, like the hum of a refrigerator or the ticking of a clock that never stops. It's the worry. The anxiety that nags at me, always pulling at my thoughts. My bank account isn't even close to where I want it to be. In fact, it's often teetering on the edge of disaster. And yet, I keep going, day after day, doing what I can to survive in a system that feels like it's made to make sure I never get ahead. I'm 27, and the future feels like a far-off dream I can't seem to grasp. The weight of it all starts before my feet even hit the floor in the morning. The first thing I do when I wake up is check my phone. It's not to scroll through social media or catch up on news, it's to see if anything has changed with my bank balance. Every notification, every alert, even the email about a random promotion, makes my stomach twist in the worst way. I don't know what I was hoping to see, maybe just a little bit of good news, maybe a random deposit, or at least a reminder that I'm not completely behind. But no. The numbers stare back at me, cold and indifferent. Rent is due in a week, and I still haven't figured out how I'm going to pay it. I haven't even touched my student loan in months. When I do manage to scrape together a payment, I feel like I'm dropping a penny in a bucket that's way too full. The more I try to pay down, the more interest piles up, like sand slipping through my fingers. I pull myself out of bed, groaning because I know what's coming. Another day of walking the tightrope, making sure I don't tip over into financial ruin. I know that people talk about budgeting and saving, but it feels like that's for people who make a little more than I do. Sure, I could make a few cuts, stop eating out, stop getting coffee on the way to work, but those things don't even make a dent. The real issues are the hidden costs, the things I can't cut. Health insurance, utilities, transportation, everything is more expensive than it was last year, and every month I watch my wages, though steady, struggle to keep up with the rising tide of prices. I don't talk about this with anyone. Not really. My friends don't seem to get it. They talk about buying new clothes or going on vacations, and I can barely afford to take a day off. They ask me to come out for drinks, but I know that $30 will leave me scrambling to make rent. I make up excuses about being tired or having other plans. What I don't say is that I just can't afford it. Not right now. When I get to work, I try to act like everything is fine, even though it feels like my mind is constantly swirling. My boss is nice enough, but I can tell he's stressed too. He doesn't say it, but I can see it in his eyes. Everyone is feeling it, this pressure that keeps building, like the world is slowly getting more expensive while wages stay stagnant. And I can't help but wonder, is this what it's always going to be like? A constant cycle of debt, struggle, and anxiety, with no end in sight? The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. I'm doing everything I can, working harder and harder, but I'm not getting ahead. I'm just keeping my head above water. There are days when I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. I wake up, go to work, come home, and repeat. I'm so tired, and yet there's no option to stop. I wish I could just take a break, clear my head, and figure out what I want out of life. But the pressure is suffocating, and even if I could, I don't think I'd know what to do with that time. Some days, I try to imagine a different future. Maybe if I just keep at it long enough, I'll be able to buy a house one day. Or maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to quit this job I barely tolerate and do something I'm passionate about. But those dreams feel so far out of reach, like I'm chasing something in the distance that always slips away the closer I get. I used to dream big. I wanted to travel the world, live in a big city, take risks, and make something of myself. But somewhere along the way, those dreams got smaller. Now, I just want stability. I want to be able to pay my bills without feeling like I'm on the edge of disaster. I want to save up for an emergency fund. I want to live without the constant weight of financial insecurity. But every time I take a step forward, it feels like something knocks me back. Like last week, when my car broke down. I could hardly believe it, of course, the one thing I rely on to get to work decides to fail on me. The mechanic gave me an estimate that was more than I had saved for the month. So now, I'm looking at cutting more things from my budget, maybe even taking on a second job, just to cover the unexpected cost. I don't even remember the last time I had a full day off without worrying about money. It's funny, though, because even in the middle of this constant pressure, I still hold on to the tiniest spark of hope. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I think that maybe, just maybe, things will get better. Maybe I'll get that raise I've been hoping for. Maybe I'll catch a break. Maybe, one day, I won't have to feel this constant knot in my stomach every time I check my bank account. But I also know that hope isn't enough. It never has been. It's the doing that matters. It's the hustle, the grind. And that's what keeps me going every day, my determination to find a way out, even though I'm not sure how. I look at people who seem to have it all together, and I wonder how they do it. Maybe they're just better at pretending. Maybe they've figured something out that I haven't. But here I am, stuck in the cycle, trying to make the best of it, hoping that one day I'll break free. Until then, I'll keep going. I'll keep grinding. Because what else can I do? At night, when I'm finally lying in bed, my mind races. The future is blurry, and the past feels like a series of missteps that led me here. But somewhere deep down, I remind myself that I'm still moving forward. Even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if everything around me feels like it's growing faster than I can keep up with. Maybe the future will get better. Maybe, one day, I'll look back and realize that I made it through. But for now, all I can do is hang on and keep going, one day at a time. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach. Not because I didn't sleep well, though that's a part of it, but because there's this constant hum of anxiety. It's in my chest, my head, the pit of my stomach, and it never quite goes away. I try to push it aside when I get out of bed, but it's always there, a reminder of what I can't afford to ignore. Some days, it feels like I'm walking through quicksand, my feet heavy with the weight of bills, student loans, rent, utilities, and everything else that seems to grow just a little faster than my paycheck. I work full-time as a receptionist at a small office, nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills, sort of. It's not a career, not yet, at least, but I thought it would be enough when I started. In the beginning, I told myself that it was temporary. I'd get my foot in the door and climb the ladder. But the longer I stay in this job, the more I wonder if I'm even on the ladder at all. Each month, it feels like I'm playing a game of Jenga, stacking the pieces of my life just to see how long it'll take for everything to come crashing down. I'm always behind. I pay the rent, just barely on time, and then I'm left scrambling to make sure I can afford gas, groceries, and the basics. If something unexpected happens, like a medical bill, or my car breaks down, everything falls apart. I don't even know how I'd handle it without credit cards. I hate that I have to rely on them. But sometimes it feels like the only option. When you're trying to survive, you do what you have to. It's not like I want to live this way, constantly watching my balance dip lower with every swipe. But if I didn't, I'd be living in a constant state of panic. And the worst part is, I'm not alone. I know that everyone I know is struggling in one way or another. We're all stuck in the same mess. The economic environment has shifted so much in the last few years. The prices of everything have skyrocketed, but wages are stagnant. I hear people talk about the Great Resignation, but it feels like a distant idea for me. I can't just quit. I can't afford to walk away from what little I have. And the idea of jumping into a new job with the hopes of better pay or benefits feels like a dream. Not something I believe is possible right now, but a dream I've learned to push away, to protect myself from the crushing disappointment. It's exhausting. I'm constantly measuring my worth against how much I can afford, how much I can buy. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Everyone around me seems to be in the same boat, working harder, longer hours, hoping for a break, but never getting one. You just work until you burn out, and by then, you're too tired to care. What gets to me the most is how little control I feel like I have over my own life. Every decision I make, no matter how small, is influenced by money. What to eat for dinner, whether to go out with friends, how much gas I can afford to put in my car. It's a constant calculation in my head. I try to be resourceful, meal prepping, shopping sales, looking for discounts, but it's never enough. It's a losing battle. Every time I feel like I'm getting ahead, something else comes up. The car needs a new tire. My phone stops working. My insurance premium goes up. And suddenly, I'm back to square one. The worst part? I've had to put off so many things I once dreamed about. When I was younger, I used to talk about traveling, going back to school, starting my own business. But now, it's just survival mode. I've had to let go of so many plans. I can't afford a vacation. I can't afford a new laptop. I can't afford to even think about pursuing that degree I wanted. Every day I find myself asking, how long is this going to last? Will things get better? Or will they just keep getting worse? I try not to think too much about the future, because it just feels too heavy. It's like there's this wall in front of me, and no matter how much I push, it doesn't budge. I feel stuck in this cycle of never being able to get ahead, never having enough, always worried that the next unexpected expense will be the one that breaks me. But even on the hardest days, I try to stay hopeful. I tell myself that things can't stay this way forever, that I'll eventually get the break I need. Maybe a new job will come along, or my financial situation will change somehow. I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. But that doesn't stop the ache that comes with knowing that I'm postponing so much of what I wanted for myself. I used to dream about living somewhere nice, about going out to eat without feeling guilty, about not having to check my bank account every time I buy something. Now, I dream of just being able to breathe. I dream of stability. I dream of a day when the anxiety I wake up with in the morning isn't just a constant presence. I know I'm not alone in this. So many people are in the same position, trying to make ends meet, juggling bills, working jobs that don't seem to pay enough to cover the basics. We're all stuck in this system where wages don't keep up with the cost of living, where jobs aren't stable, and where it feels like the world is just moving forward while we're stuck in place. It's hard not to feel angry sometimes. I feel angry that the people at the top don't seem to care, that they're out of touch with the reality of what it's like to struggle. But I try not to let that anger take over. I remind myself that I can't change the system alone, and that all I can do is keep going, day by day, doing what I can with what I have. I try to find small moments of joy, even if they're fleeting. I take walks, I listen to music, I spend time with friends when I can, even if it means skipping a meal to afford the night out. I hold on to the idea that, somehow, things will get better. Maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Until then, I'm just trying to make it through, one day at a time. It's hard to keep the faith when everything feels like it's stacked against you, but I have to hold on to something. Because if I don't, then what's the point? I can't keep going without hope, even if it's the tiniest sliver. I just have to believe that, someday, the system won't have me trapped in its grasp anymore. Until then, I'll keep waking up every morning, fighting to get through the day, hoping that maybe, just maybe, one day I'll get to be more than just a survivor. It feels like I'm living on the edge of a cliff every day, looking down at a future that seems to be slipping further away. The feeling of being trapped in this endless cycle of debt, bills, and broken promises is overwhelming, but somehow I keep going. Every morning when I wake up, I can already feel the weight on my chest, the tension creeping up my spine as I stare at the ceiling and try to muster the energy to face another day. It's 8:30 a.m., and I have exactly 20 minutes to get ready for work. My alarm went off an hour ago, but I spent the first 30 minutes scrolling through my phone, hoping for something that would lift my spirits. There's nothing new. No miracle. Just the same endless stream of notifications about how hard it is to make it right now. And the people on social media, they're all in the same boat, talking about the rising cost of gas, rent, groceries. Everyone's feeling it. Some are laughing about it, trying to find humor in the struggle. I try to do that too, but it always feels a little too raw to laugh about something that's sinking me deeper into anxiety each day. I manage to get to work, barely. The commute feels longer than it is, my mind always racing through a checklist of bills I need to pay and a looming credit card balance that just keeps climbing. I've been keeping track of it all in a notebook, but sometimes I just don't want to open it anymore. The numbers don't lie, though. Every day, the gap between my income and expenses widens, and I don't know how long I can keep pretending it's not suffocating me. The worst part is how normal it feels now. It's like I've grown used to the constant hum of stress in my chest, the way my stomach drops whenever I check my bank account. I don't even have to check it anymore to know I'm overdrawn. There's always something, unexpected car repairs, the price of groceries shooting up, or some random fee that gets charged to my card, and before I know it, I'm drowning in this low-grade panic that never quite goes away. I've gotten pretty good at ignoring it for short bursts, but it's always lurking, ready to pull me under when I least expect it. I've had to cancel so many plans with friends because I just can't afford it. Every time we talk about doing something, going out for drinks, going to a concert, taking a trip, I feel this wave of guilt wash over me. I want to go, to have fun, to live a little. But I know that even the smallest expense right now could send me into a financial tailspin. So, I cancel. I give my friends the same excuse, I'm just so tired, when really, it's about the money. I hate that I've started to avoid the people I care about because I can't keep pretending I'm okay. My dreams seem so far away these days. I used to talk about traveling, about moving to a new city, about taking chances. Now, I just focus on surviving. The things I used to want, starting a business, going back to school, moving out of this cramped apartment, have all faded into the background. I can barely imagine a future where those things are possible. It's like the walls are closing in, and all I can do is hang on and hope that somehow, somewhere, things will get better. But then I think about the future and how it's shaping up. The way prices are rising every year, how every time I get a small raise, it doesn't even begin to cover the increase in rent or gas. I feel like I'm running in place. I've tried everything to save, to cut back, to be smart about how I spend. I've sold things I don't need, started meal prepping, stopped buying anything that's not essential. But it's never enough. Every time I think I'm getting ahead, life throws something at me. A broken phone. A doctor's visit I forgot about. A late fee because I missed a payment because I couldn't remember which day it was. It's exhausting. I've gotten so used to sacrificing my own happiness for the sake of keeping up. Sometimes, I wonder if I've forgotten what it feels like to live without this constant financial pressure hanging over my head. There was a time when I'd be excited to spend money on things I enjoyed, going to the movies, buying a new book, even just treating myself to a nice meal. But now, every decision I make is based on the same question: can I afford this? And I can't help but feel like I'm losing something important in the process. There's a part of me that's always hopeful, that believes in the power of hard work and persistence. But when you work hard and still find yourself struggling to make ends meet, it starts to eat away at that hope. Some days, I just don't know if I'll ever catch a break. If I'll ever get to a place where I can breathe easy. Sometimes, I let myself dream about what it would be like to not worry about money, just for a moment. What would I do with the freedom of not constantly checking my account, wondering if I'll have enough to cover rent or my car payment or if I'll be able to buy groceries for the week? I think about traveling, seeing the world beyond these four walls, exploring new cities, trying new things. But every time I start to think about it, that heavy weight of reality pulls me back down. It's not even a distant dream anymore, it feels more like a fantasy. Something that exists for other people, but not for me. I used to think that if I just worked hard enough, if I just kept pushing, things would eventually improve. But now, I don't know. It feels like the system is rigged, like no matter how much you hustle, it's never enough. It's hard to keep believing that there's a way out when every day feels like you're treading water. Still, there's a small part of me that hasn't given up completely. I tell myself that one day, it will be different. Maybe I'll get a better job, maybe I'll find a way to start my own business, maybe I'll somehow break out of this cycle. But that's a hard thing to hold on to when the present feels like it's pulling me in every direction, suffocating me slowly. For now, I try to cope the best I can. I focus on the small victories, finding a good deal on groceries, managing to pay off one small bill. I remind myself that I'm not alone in this, even though it often feels like I am. And when the weight gets too heavy, when I feel like I can't keep going, I take a deep breath and remind myself that, somehow, I'm still here. Maybe that's the most important thing. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.